Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to tackle a topic we know is important to a lot of you guys out there.
Yeah.
Understanding the whole dynamic between men and women in today's world.
Well, it's a big one.
It is a big one, and you guys have sent in some really fascinating excerpts from a book
Oh, yeah.
that just dives headfirst into these issues.
Definitely.
And we're excited to break it down
Yeah, me too.
together.
Absolutely. What's really striking about these chapters
Yeah.
is how directly the author speaks to a specific audience, men who are really out there,
Yeah.
seeking answers and trying to understand their experience, in the context of modern society.
Absolutely, and it's not subtle. They jump
Yeah.
right in with
Yeah.
this concept of the red pill.
Yeah.
And they hit you with a statistic right off the bat. 70% of men feel voiceless.
Wow.
That's huge.
It's a big number.
It is a big number, and I think it really makes you wonder what leads to that feeling.
Right, and that's where that whole red pill idea comes in, right? The author's arguing that it's about men recognizing certain truths about society and about gender roles that they feel are being ignored or dismissed. It's
Yeah.
about kind of waking up to a different perspective.
And the book doesn't shy away from the men's rights movement at all.
No, they don't.
They even reference Warren Farrell's argument
Right.
that men need to liberate themselves.
Uh-huh.
This is not your typical self-help book.
This is not like a, 5 steps to a better you kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really about challenging assumptions, and then, they connect that to this concept of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And they don't hold back, how the media often portrays men and
Right.
and how that can be harmful.
It's not just toxic masculinity is bad. They give concrete examples.
They do.
Like from movies and advertising. It's
Right.
like really illustrating how these narrow portrayals
Yeah.
can really impact men's mental health and how they see themselves.
It's like they're showing you the matrix code behind everyday messages.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they're saying, hey, look at this. This is how you're being influenced.
Right. And then they make this argument that this constant pressure to fit into a certain box of masculinity can create this inner conflict for men.
Right.
Leading to all these issues, like feeling like you have to man up and hide your emotions.
Yeah. And that can make it so hard to reach out for help.
Right.
When you need it.
And then on the other hand,
Yeah.
you're also being told to be more vulnerable. So which way do you go?
Right, exactly. It's like a double bind.
Yeah.
Men are caught between these conflicting expectations.
Totally.
Told to be strong, but also sensitive. Successful, but also emotionally available. It's no wonder so many men feel frustrated and inadequate.
So where do you go from there?
Right.
The book seems to suggest self-awareness is key.
Yeah.
There's a whole chapter on setting boundaries that I think a lot of people will relate to.
Me too.
It's about recognizing your limits and being okay with saying no. Yeah, and they actually give really practical advice on how to do that.
Right.
Examples like saying no to extra commitments when you're already feeling stretched thin, protecting your personal time,
Yeah.
not compromising on your core value.
It's almost like you're drawing a line in the sand.
It is.
And reclaiming your autonomy.
And the author connects that back to the red pill idea.
Right.
Recognizing potentially manipulative situations and not falling into those traps.
Not playing that game.
Yeah.
Now, one area where the author really pushes against conventional thinking is in their analysis of feminism's impact.
Yeah, they present a very specific viewpoint here,
Yeah.
arguing that while feminism has had, positive aspects, it's also created some unintended consequences for men.
They get really specific.
They
They
do.
dedicate multiple chapters to what they see as the downsides for men's health, for relationships, and for societal expectations.
Yeah, it's a perspective you don't often hear.
No, you don't. And it's interesting how they approach it.
Yeah.
It's not just making broad statements. They use studies. They use statistics.
They do.
They even break down common feminist talking points.
Right.
Like, for example, they challenge the traditional narrative around the gender pay gap.
Right. They offer alternative explanations, pointing to factors like career choices and hours worked. They even bring in data from sources like the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to back up their claims.
So they're not just saying things, they're bringing receipts.
They're bringing receipts.
It's a reminder that there are different interpretations of these complex issues.
Absolutely.
And they also talk about how feminism, in their view, has created a double bind for men.
Yeah.
This pressure to be both strong and vulnerable.
Yeah.
To be a successful provider, but also an emotionally expressive partner.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
Right. And it's a fascinating perspective to consider. The author suggests this can lead to men feeling pressured to live up to conflicting ideals, potentially contributing to, feelings of stress and inadequacy.
So it's not about ignoring these messages. It's
No.
about understanding them
Yeah.
and figuring out how to navigate them in a way that feels authentic.
Absolutely. And this leads into another area. The author explores the importance of men's spaces and friendships.
Yeah.
They argue that strong bonds with other men are vital.
Yeah.
They highlight examples like sports teams or the men's shed movement as places where men can connect
Yeah.
in ways that are really unique to their experiences. It's about recognizing that men often communicate and relate differently than women.
Totally.
Having these male-specific spaces can provide a sense of camaraderie and understanding that's hard to find elsewhere.
It's like having a tribe,
It is.
a brotherhood that understands the challenges that you're
Oh, yeah.
facing and can offer support.
And the author suggests that these spaces can also help men develop a stronger sense of identity,
Right.
especially in a world where traditional masculine roles are often being redefined.
Yeah, this next part I think resonated with me a lot.
Okay.
They dedicate a whole chapter to men's physical and mental health,
Yeah.
and they don't sugarcoat it.
No.
They present some really alarming statistics about, declining testosterone levels, rising suicide rates.
Yeah.
The fact that men are statistically less likely to seek help
Wow.
when they are struggling.
That's heavy.
It's a call to action
It is.
for men to take their well-being seriously.
Absolutely.
They emphasize that pushing through pain, ignoring warning signs can have long-term consequences.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's about being proactive,
It is.
about taking care of yourself.
And they offer practical advice, too.
Oh, yeah.
Encouraging things like regular exercise,
Yeah?
a healthy diet,
Uh-huh.
stress management techniques,
Yeah.
seeking professional help when needed.
It really makes you think about how we often encourage men to be strong and stoic,
Right.
which can prevent them from admitting they need support.
Yeah, it's like a catch-22.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. And it's about breaking down those stigmas and recognizing that taking care of your mental and physical health,
Yeah,
it's actually a sign of strength,
absolutely.
not weakness.
Not weakness.
Okay, so now
Yeah.
hold on to your hats because the next chapter dives into a pretty controversial topic,
Okay.
cultural Marxism.
All right.
So this is where the author really delves into some deep waters,
They do.
presenting cultural Marxism as this powerful force that's shaping society in ways we might not even realize.
Right, like it's this hidden agenda
Yeah.
that's trying to undermine traditional values and hierarchies.
And particularly the roles of men and women.
Yeah.
And they go into detail about how they believe this ideology is infiltrating institutions, like media, education, even government.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense analysis.
It's definitely a perspective that's gaining traction in certain circles.
It is.
And the author doesn't shy away from exploring its implications.
No, they don't.
They argue that cultural Marxism is promoting a victimhood mentality and working to erode traditional gender roles, which they see as the threat to the foundation of society.
Yeah. It's a bold statement.
It's definitely a controversial take.
It is.
Whether you agree with this view or not,
Right.
it's a perspective that's out there.
Absolutely.
And the author presents it with a lot of conviction.
Yeah, they're not mincing words.
No.
It's a reminder that there are often multiple narratives at play when it comes to understanding these complex social and political issues.
Okay, so we've gone from toxic masculinity to the red pill.
Right.
We've explored men's spaces.
Yeah.
We even delved into cultural Marxism. What stands out to you as one of the most important takeaways?
I think the core message is about men understanding the forces that are shaping their lives.
Yeah.
Both internally and externally.
Uh-huh.
Recognizing the influences of media, of social movements, of cultural trends.
Right.
But also understanding your own innate drives and motivations.
It's like becoming aware of the matrix that you're living in.
Exactly. And then from that awareness, making conscious choices about who you want to be and how you want to navigate the world.
Now, one chapter that I found really intriguing is about the role of women in shaping men's identities.
Okay.
And this is where the author really digs into the complexities of relationships.
Yeah, they go deep. into the dynamics of how men can sometimes lose themselves in relationships, sacrificing their own needs and desires to please their partners.
And they introduced this concept of covert contracts.
Oh, yeah.
These unspoken expectations and power dynamics that can influence men's behavior without them even realizing it.
It's like you're operating under a set of rules
Right.
that you don't even know exist.
And they go so far as to say that some women can be masters of emotional manipulation.
Wow.
Using guilt, shame, or even perceived vulnerability to control men.
That's a strong statement.
It's a bold statement for sure. It's like they're saying pay attention to the subtle cues.
Yeah.
Don't be blinded by love or societal expectations.
Right. Beware.
It's not about demonizing women.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the dynamics at play
Yeah.
and equipping men to navigate them in a healthy way.
Exactly. They encourage men to prioritize their own needs,
Yeah.
set clear boundaries, and not be afraid to walk away from relationships that are disrespectful
Right.
or detrimental to their well-being.
It's about finding a balance
It is.
between being a good partner
Yeah,
and staying true to yourself.
absolutely.
This is all just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much more to uncover in this book, so stay tuned for part 2
Can't wait.
of our deep dive, where we'll explore even more thought-provoking insights and practical advice.
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go. Welcome back to our deep dive into this book that's really challenging, conventional thinking about men's roles in society.
Yeah.
We left off talking about relationships,
Right.
but now the author kind of shifts gears to another area
Okay.
where they see men facing unique challenges.
This chapter really got me thinking.
Yeah.
The author argues that the education system often fails to cater to the specific needs of boys.
Yeah, it's like they're designed for a different learning style.
Yeah. Exactly.
They make a compelling point about how boys often thrive in environments
Yeah.
with more hands-on learning and healthy competition,
Right.
and suggest that traditional classroom settings, which often emphasize quiet individual work, can sometimes put boys at a disadvantage.
It's not just about boys being rambunctious.
No.
They cite research showing that boys are more likely to be diagnosed with learning disabilities
Right.
and fall behind in reading and writing.
Yeah.
It made me wonder if there's like a systemic issue at play here.
Yeah, it makes you think.
Yeah.
They also point to the lack of male role models in education,
Oh, yeah.
especially in the younger grades.
Right.
They argue that having positive male figures in those formative years can make a huge difference in a boy's development.
It's interesting because you don't often hear people talking about the need for more male teachers.
No, you don't.
And it makes you think about the impact that could have.
Right, and the author goes beyond just advocating for more male teachers.
Okay.
They kind of challenge the current education paradigm, suggesting that it often favors a more feminine learning style.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
Are they saying that that bias is one of the reasons why boys are falling behind academically
They are.
and disengaging from school?
They are.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So they advocate for a more balanced approach,
Okay.
one that recognizes and values the unique ways that boys learn. It's about creating an environment where they can thrive.
They also make a point about needing more vocational and technical training for boys.
Yes.
It's like they're saying not every boy is meant for a traditional college path,
Right.
and that's okay.
Exactly. And we need to provide alternative pathways for boys to develop skills and find meaningful work, recognizing there are many ways to contribute to society.
I found that refreshing.
Yeah,
It's about broadening the definition of success
it is.
beyond just going to college and getting a white-collar job.
Absolutely. It's about acknowledging that practical skills and trades have value.
Yeah.
And those paths can be just as fulfilling and rewarding.
Okay, now brace yourself.
Okay.
Because the next chapter gets into some seriously controversial territory.
Right.
The author's take on what they call female privilege.
Oh, boy.
This is where the author really pushes some buttons,
They do.
challenging widely accepted notions about gender and power.
Yeah, they're not holding back here.
They argue that women, while facing certain challenges, also benefit from a system that often works in their favor.
Right. It's a perspective you don't often hear.
No, you don't. They bring up areas like family courts and custody battles,
Yeah.
where they argue that the system can be biased against men. They also talk about the presumption of innocence that's often given to women in cases of domestic disputes or sexual assault accusations.
Right. And it's important to note,
Yeah.
they're not saying that women don't face real struggles
Of course not.
or that all accusations are false.
Right.
But they are raising questions about whether there's a societal double standard at play.
It's a valid question.
It is.
They even suggest that the very concept of male privilege is often used to silence men
Yeah.
and prevent them from speaking out about injustices they face.
Right, it's like they're flipping the script
Yeah.
on the traditional narrative, saying, hey, there's another side to this story that needs to be heard.
Okay, so after that intense chapter,
Yeah.
the book shifts to a topic that is so crucial:
Okay.
men's mental health.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Huge.
And the author doesn't shy away from the harsh realities,
No, they don't.
acknowledging those alarming statistics about rising rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide among men.
And they link that to the pressures and expectations men face in today's world.
Absolutely. It's like a perfect storm,
Yeah.
you know?
And they talk about how the traditional idea of men being stoic and strong
Yeah.
can actually prevent them from seeking help.
Right. It's like they're taught to bury their emotions,
Yeah,
which can lead to serious problems down the road.
exactly.
They encourage men to be more open about their struggles,
Yeah.
to reach out for support, to reject the idea that vulnerability is a weakness.
It's about redefining what strength really means.
Absolutely.
It makes you think about the messages boys receive from a young age.
Yeah.
And how those can impact them as adults.
Right, because those messages become ingrained.
Yeah, they do.
You know?
The author emphasizes the importance of finding healthy ways to deal with stress and process emotions, whether it's through exercise hobbies or connecting with others.
Right, finding those outlets that work
Yeah.
for you.
And they even suggest that men should prioritize their own mental and emotional well-being,
Yeah.
putting their own needs first sometimes.
Which can be a radical concept
It
for
is.
guys who are raised to be providers and caretakers,
Yeah,
you know?
it's about recognizing that self-care isn't selfish.
Right.
It's essential.
It is.
And when men take care of themselves,
Yeah,
they're better equipped to be there for others.
absolutely.
Now let's dive into a chapter that feels especially relevant today:
Okay.
the potential dangers of social media.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
So the author doesn't present social media as inherently bad,
Right.
but rather as a double-edged sword.
It is.
On one hand, it can be a tool for connection and finding community,
Uh-huh.
but on the other hand, it can be incredibly addictive and distort our view of reality.
Yeah, it's like living in a highlight reel,
Yeah,
you know?
you're seeing everyone else's seemingly perfect lives,
Right.
which can make you feel inadequate and anxious about your own life.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap,
Totally.
you know?
And they also talk about the echo chambers and filter bubbles that social media creates.
Oh, yeah.
You get trapped in this cycle where you're only seeing information that confirms your existing beliefs,
Right.
which can lead to extreme viewpoints and make it hard to have productive conversations with people who think differently.
Right. It's like living in your own little world,
Yeah.
which can be dangerous.
And the author warns against getting sucked into those online rabbit holes
Oh, yeah.
where negativity and outrage often prevail.
It's easy to get lost in there,
so easy.
you know?
Yeah.
So instead, they encourage men to be mindful of their social media consumption.
Yeah.
Be critical of the information you're taking.
Wow.
Prioritize real-world connections and experiences.
It's about not letting the virtual world consume your life.
Right.
And remembering the importance of face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
And building genuine relationships offline.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance.
Yes.
You know? Finding ways to engage with technology in a healthy way without letting it take over your life.
Okay, now let's move on to a topic that's close to my heart: physical health.
Yeah. This is a good one.
The author really emphasizes the importance of men taking care of their bodies,
Uh-huh.
prioritizing their physical well-being.
Yeah. You can't neglect this.
Now, you can't. And they present some pretty startling statistics
They do.
about the state of men's health today,
Uh-huh.
from rising rates of obesity and heart disease
Yeah.
to the decline in life expectancy.
It's a wake-up call.
It is.
You know, they argue that men are often conditioned to ignore their health, push through pain, and neglect warning signs.
It's like they've been taught to just tough it out,
Right.
which can have serious consequences in the long run.
No doubt.
So it's about breaking free from those outdated notions of masculinity
It is.
and recognizing that taking care of your body is essential.
Absolutely. And the author encourages men to be proactive.
Yeah.
You know, eat a healthy diet. Uh-huh.
Get regular exercise.
Yeah.
Make sure you're getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
See your doctor for regular checkups.
It's about taking ownership of your health.
It is.
You know, they even talk about the importance of finding activities that you genuinely enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're having fun,
Yeah,
you're more likely to stick with it.
absolutely.
It's about making healthy habits sustainable.
It is.
They also address the issue of declining testosterone levels.
Yeah, which is something that affects many men as they age.
Right.
They discuss the pros and cons of testosterone replacement therapy,
Uh-huh.
but they also emphasize the importance of exploring natural ways to boost testosterone,
Right.
like through diet, exercise, and stress management.
So you have options.
You do.
You know? Now let's get into a chapter that I think will resonate with a lot of men out there.
Okay.
The impact of feminism on relationships.
All right, this is a big one.
This is where the author unpacks some of the challenges men face.
In navigating the world of dating and relationships in a post-feminist era,
Right.
it's a complex topic.
It is.
For sure.
And they acknowledge that the rise of feminism has brought about positive changes.
Yeah.
But they also argue that it's created some unintended consequences for men.
Okay, so what do they mean by that?
Well, they talk about how traditional roles and expectations in relationships have shifted,
Right.
leaving many men feeling unsure about how to act
Yeah.
and what their role is supposed to be.
It's like the rules of the game have changed,
Right.
but no one explained the new ones.
Exactly.
And they suggest that the focus on female empowerment has sometimes come at the expense of recognizing and valuing traditional masculine traits.
Yeah, it's like there's this message that men need to suppress their natural instincts and desires
Right.
in order to be acceptable partners.
Like you have to fit into this very specific mold.
Exactly.
And the author goes so far as to suggest that some women have used feminist ideology as a tool to control and manipulate men. And they give examples of how this can play out,
Uh-huh.
with women using guilt trips and shame to get what they want.
It's a controversial perspective,
It is.
but I think it's something that a lot of men can relate to,
I think so, too.
you know?
Yeah.
So the author encourages men to be more assertive in their relationships,
Yeah.
to set clear boundaries,
Mhm.
and not be afraid to walk away from situations that are unhealthy or disrespectful.
It's about knowing your worth
It is.
and not settling for less than you deserve.
Absolutely.
It's about finding a partner who values and appreciates you
Yeah.
for who you are,
Right.
not who they think you should be.
Exactly.
Now let's move on to a chapter that explores a more introspective side of masculinity,
Okay.
men's spirituality.
All right.
This is where the author gets into the deeper meaning of life
Yeah.
and the yearning that men often feel for something greater than themselves.
It's a universal human need.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
And they argue that modern society has in some ways stripped men of their traditional spiritual outlets and rituals,
right.
leaving them feeling lost and disconnected.
Yeah. It's like we've lost touch with those ancient traditions and practices
Yeah.
that used to provide men with a sense of purpose and belonging.
Yeah. And they believe that men have a natural need to connect with a higher power,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's through religion, nature, or some other form of transcendence.
It's about finding that connection
Yeah.
to something bigger than yourself.
And they also emphasize the importance of ritual and tradition in men's lives
Yeah.
as a way to connect with something larger than themselves and to find a sense of continuity with the past.
Right. Those rituals can be really grounding.
Yeah. And they discuss the benefits of practices like meditation, prayer, or spending time in nature
Yeah.
as ways for men to cultivate their spirituality.
It's about taking time for yourself.
Yes.
To reflect,
Yeah.
to connect with your inner self,
Yeah.
and to find meaning beyond the material world.
Okay, now buckle up,
All right, here we go.
because the next chapter takes us back into the realm of cultural and political debate
Okay.
with the author's views on cultural Marxism.
Uh-huh.
No,
This is a topic that tends to generate a lot of strong opinions.
it does.
You know.
And the author presents cultural Marxism as an ideology that's infiltrated our institutions
Right.
and is working to undermine traditional values and hierarchies.
Yeah, they see it as a real threat.
And they argue that this ideology sees society as a constant struggle
Yeah.
between oppressors and the oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe it's being used to pit men against women,
Right.
to promote victimhood mentalities,
Yeah.
and to erode the foundations of Western civilization.
It's a pretty stark assessment.
It is.
I know.
They go into detail about how they see this ideology playing out in areas like media,
Mm-hmm.
education, and government policy.
Right. They see it everywhere.
It's a complex and controversial topic.
It is.
And the author's take on it is likely to be met with both agreement and strong opposition.
Absolutely.
Whether you agree with their assessment or not,
Right.
it's definitely a perspective that's out there.
Yeah, and it's important to be aware of it.
Yeah, it's a reminder that there are often multiple narratives at play when trying to make sense of complex social and political issues.
Absolutely. You got to look at it from all sides.
Now let's shift gears to a chapter that's all about empowering men to step up and lead
Okay.
in their own lives, in their communities, and in the world.
Yeah, this is a powerful message.
This is where the author really challenges the idea that leadership is somehow a toxic masculine trait.
Right. Like it's a bad thing,
Yeah.
you know?
They argue that true leadership is about serving others,
Yeah.
taking responsibility,
Mm.
and guiding and protecting those who look up to you.
It's about being a role model,
Yeah.
setting a good example.
They even suggest that men have a natural inclination towards leadership,
Yeah,
that it's part of their inherent nature.
they do.
And they present examples of great male leaders throughout history, highlighting their contributions to society and the positive impact they've had on the world.
Right. And they talk about the qualities that make a good leader.
Yeah.
Things like courage, integrity, vision, and a willingness to make tough decisions.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
they encourage men to embrace those qualities,
Yeah.
to step up and take on leadership roles, not just in their personal lives,
Right.
but also in their communities and beyond.
It's a call to action
It is.
for men to step into their power and make a positive difference.
Now let's delve into a chapter that I think will resonate with a lot of men.
Okay.
The importance of having their own spaces,
Oh, yeah.
places where they can connect with each other on a deeper level.
Right. Those spaces are so important.
The author really emphasizes the need for men to have both physical and metaphorical spaces
Yeah.
where they can be themselves without judgment or pressure.
It's about creating a sense of brotherhood and camaraderie.
Right.
You know,
And they talk about how men often communicate and process emotions differently than women.
yeah.
And how having those male-only spaces can allow them to be more open and vulnerable with each other.
Right. They can let their guard down
Yeah.
and be themselves.
And they highlight the importance of men's groups, sports teams, and even just informal gatherings with friends as ways for men to connect,
Yeah.
support each other, and explore their masculinity.
Right. It's about having those outlets
Yeah.
where you can just be yourself.
And they also talk about how these spaces can provide men with a sense of belonging and purpose,
Yeah.
especially in a world where traditional masculine roles are often being questioned.
Right. It's like a refuge.
It is. It's
Yeah.
about having a tribe,
It is.
a group of guys who get you, who you can be yourself around,
Yeah.
and who will have your back.
Absolutely.
And they even suggest that the lack of these spaces in modern society has contributed to the rise of male loneliness and isolation,
Right.
which can have a negative impact on mental health.
No doubt.
So it makes you think about how important it is
Yeah.
for men to have those outlets, those places where they can just be men without having to worry about societal expectations or pressures.
It's about finding that freedom to
Yeah.
be yourself.
Now let's get into a chapter that's sure to spark some debate.
Okay.
The author's take on what they call the dangers of modern feminism.
Oh, boy.
This is where the author really dives into some of the more controversial aspects of the gender equality movement.
Right. And they're not pulling any punches here.
No, they're not.
You know.
And they argue that while feminism has undoubtedly achieved some positive changes for women, it has also created some unintended negative consequences, particularly for men.
Yeah, they see it as a double-edged sword.
Okay, so what are some of those negative consequences?
Well, they talk about how the focus on female empowerment has sometimes led to a devaluation of traditional masculine traits.
Okay,
And a sense that men are expendable or even toxic.
like they're the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also point out what they see as the hypocrisy of some feminist ideologies, arguing that they often promote double standards that favor women while demonizing men.
Okay.
You know?
So they're not saying that all of feminism is bad,
No.
but they're saying that there are certain aspects that have gone too far.
Right. And they give examples like the gender pay gap narrative,
Yeah.
which they argue is often misrepresented to paint men as oppressors, even though studies show that when you control for factors like experience, education, and occupation, the gap narrows significantly.
So they're saying it's not as simple as just saying women are paid less than men.
Right. There are other factors at play.
Okay.
And they also question the way issues like domestic violence and sexual assault are often framed,
Okay.
suggesting that the narrative frequently focuses solely on female victims while ignoring or downplaying male victims.
So they're saying there's a bias there.
They are. Yeah. And they believe that this one-sided approach creates a culture of fear and mistrust, where men are often presumed guilty until proven innocent.
That's a pretty serious accusation.
It is.
They even go so far as to say that some aspects of modern feminism have become toxic,
Yeah.
promoting a victimhood mentality among women
Uh-huh.
and encouraging them to see themselves as perpetually oppressed by men.
Right. It's a pretty scathing critique,
It is.
you know?
Yeah, this is definitely a perspective that's going to generate a lot of discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's important to hear both sides of the story,
It is.
you know?
It's about recognizing that the complexities of gender relations in the 21st century require nuanced conversations
Yeah.
and a willingness to consider different viewpoints,
Oh,
really.
Okay, so before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
let's take a look at one more chapter that the author focuses on,
Well,
the importance of men's spaces.
right. This is something they keep coming back to.
They do.
Yeah.
And it's where they really emphasize the need for men to have places,
Yeah.
both physical and metaphorical,
Yeah.
where they can connect with each other, support each other,
Right.
and explore their masculinity without judgment.
It's about creating those safe spaces
Yep.
where men can just be themselves.
And they talk about how men often communicate and process emotions differently than women,
Yeah.
and how having those male-only spaces allows them to be more open and vulnerable with each other.
Yeah, they can let their guard down,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And they point to examples like men's groups,
Uh-huh.
sports teams,
Yeah.
even just casual gatherings of friends as valuable ways for men to bond.
It's about creating a sense of camaraderie,
Hmm.
a brotherhood,
It is.
where men can feel comfortable being themselves.
Absolutely.
And they argue that these spaces can give men a sense of belonging and purpose,
Uh-huh.
something that can be especially important in a world where traditional masculine roles are often being questioned.
Right. It's like a counterbalance
Yeah.
to all the messages they're getting from society.
It's about having a tribe,
Yeah.
a group of guys who get you,
Yeah.
who you can rely on,
Mm-hmm.
and who will support you no matter what.
Absolutely.
And they even suggest that the lack of these spaces in modern society is a contributing factor to the rise of male loneliness and isolation,
Right.
which can have serious consequences for mental and emotional well-being.
No doubt.
It's a compelling argument.
It is.
And it makes you think about the importance of fostering those connections and creating those spaces where men can thrive.
Absolutely. We need more of that.
Yeah, we do.
So we've covered a lot of ground so far,
We have.
but the journey isn't over yet.
Okay.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve into the author's concluding thoughts
Yeah.
and explore their vision for a path forward for men in the 21st century.
Right. Can't wait.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've explored some really, challenging and thought-provoking ideas about men's roles in today's world.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
A lot to unpack.
For sure.
But now, in this final part, let's see where the author leaves us. Like,
Yeah.
what do they propose men can actually do with all these insights?
Right, because after all the analysis and critique,
Yeah.
the book does shift towards solutions.
Right.
The author issues this powerful call to action, urging men to take responsibility for their lives and create a better future for themselves and future generations.
It's not just about complaining or feeling like a victim.
No.
It's about becoming an active agent
It is.
in your own life.
Yeah, taking control.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, one of the most striking takeaways is this emphasis on self-improvement.
Okay.
Focusing on physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
It's a holistic approach.
It is,
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
right?
You need to take care of yourself first.
Absolutely. And they even get specific,
Okay.
suggesting practices like regular exercise,
Yeah.
mindfulness or meditation, and connecting with nature.
It's about building that inner strength.
Yeah, it is.
It's almost like a blueprint for becoming the best version of yourself,
Yeah.
which then allows you to show up more powerfully in other areas of life.
Right. And they don't stop at just personal growth.
Yeah.
The author challenges men to become leaders in their communities, to be positive role models, especially for younger generations.
It's about stepping up, using your skills and talents to make a difference in the world around you.
It is. It's about being the change you want to see.
They even suggest that men consider forming their own organizations and communities,
Yeah.
operating outside the mainstream.
It's a radical idea.
It is.
Almost like creating a parallel society where men can support each other and live according to a different set of values.
It's about taking control and shaping your own destiny.
Exactly.
Now, whether or not that specific path resonates with every man,
Right.
the core message is clear.
Yeah.
Wake up, step up,
Yeah.
take responsibility.
The author clearly believes men have the potential to create a better future, but it requires action.
So after this deep dive, what do you think is the most crucial takeaway the author wants men to leave with?
For me, it's about reclaiming agency.
Okay.
It's recognizing the forces that are shaping our lives and making conscious choices about how we navigate them.
It's about moving from reaction to action.
Exactly. It's not about dwelling on the past or blaming others.
Right.
It's about taking control and building a future you believe in.
We've covered some pretty intense topics today.
We have.
This book definitely presents some strong opinions
Yeah.
that might not resonate with everyone,
For sure.
but I think it sparked some important conversation.
Absolutely. Even if you disagree with some of the author's views,
Yeah.
it's valuable to engage with these ideas
Right.
to understand where they're coming from.
It's about having open and honest dialogue,
It is.
even when it's uncomfortable.
Even when it's tough.
That's how we learn and grow.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, it's about finding a way to navigate the complexities of gender and relationships in a way that's healthy and respectful for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
If you're intrigued and want to delve deeper into these ideas, you can find the full book on Amazon, Kindle, and Google Play Books.
Yeah, check it out.
It's a book that will definitely make you think and might even challenge some of your assumptions.
It's a good one.
As always, knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
The more we understand ourselves and the world around us, the better equipped we are to navigate the challenges and create a future we believe in.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, this was great.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the conversation going.
See you next time.